This token has had very strong upward performance since it launched. It launched, I want to say late last year, December, November. Looks like November, possibly November. Actually, no, it's been around longer than that. Sorry, longer than that. So sometime around the beginning of 2021 ish, somewhere around there. And it's had very strong performance since it launched. Very strong performance. Now, here's the issue that I saw immediately. The way that I have to explain the strategy behind this, I had to explain it. So the way that this works, it's built under a structure that's called in the mainstream outside the bubble. It's called what's called an MLM, or a multi-level marketing scheme. I don't want to call it a Ponzi, but it's close to a Ponzi. But as long as people are doing it, it does work. The problem is that it depends on people doing it. So, or a pyramid scheme is another way that it's called. Here's how this works. Again, I'm not in the bubble at this point. I'm talking the general that everybody knows it. If you went to MLM, if you search right now, MLM scheme, you're going to get tons of hits that break it down with images, and you'll see that basically the way drip works is the same way that works. An MLM, the only way you're going to make any real profit on an MLM, and it started, by the way, in the insurance space, but it also has other aspects like with auto sales and others, where you have, let's say you buy in to a thing or you join a thing. The only way you're going to make any money is by way of recruiting, quote unquote, people underneath you. And then you get a portion of what they close or they sell. And then those people get a portion of what they close and sell. But everybody, whoever's at the top, gets a slice of everybody underneath them. So picture that you go to your friends and you're like, okay, sign up on this thing. You're going to make X amount of money. So they do this and they're like, okay, cool. Looks good. I'm going to tell my friend. And then they tell their friend and then they tell their friend. So let's say you get 4 levels deep and you do this times 3. So you get 3 friends at your level, and then each of them sells a single person, and then that person sells a single person. So you have, let's say, 12 to 16 people that are all feeding money up into you. But it's based on constantly adding more people. So the person at the top's getting rich like nuts, but everybody below, as it goes down, they're not making as much money unless you can keep on recruiting, unless you can keep on getting more people on board. That's an MLM. That's the pyramid. That's how it works. It is, you have to have some additional people involved in this thing in order for it to continue its velocity of payout. So with Drip, they did a similar concept, but using airdrops. So you would buy in and you would have a share link or a refer link, and you would distribute it to people, and you would tell them, hey, go ahead and buy in here. You have to put a portion, you have to buy a portion in to get a stake, and then you have to recruit more people in order to recoup it. So you're already at a negative ROI the moment you join the thing, and then you have to recruit people in order to recoup that, and then you have to recruit more people or have them recruit more people in order for you to essentially gain profit. So you're constantly having to engage people. Well, if you think about it the way I described it, it sounds brilliant, right? Because you're increasing the holder counts. You're saying, yep, we want more holders, we want more people, more people, more people, more people. The problem with similar type schemes is that at some point it's not going to sustain, because either you're not going to recruit people like you need to, or people are going to drop out, they're going to sell, whatever. So the team did something I thought was brilliant to try to hide the way this works. They said, okay, we're going to constrain the inventory. It only had 1 million in the total, and the max supply is still 1 million, but the circulating is only 100,000. Well, let's think about this mathematically. If the circulating is only 100,000, which I don't believe is true, but let's say that it is, of 1 million, 100,000 of 1 million, that means that it has a 10x opportunity. Its price spiked, I want to say as high as like $300, about $200, $200-ish, somewhere around there. At the peak, at its highest point, I believe that's the highest ever got. Okay, that makes sense with the total supply. It doesn't make sense with the circulating supply. Because if I'm looking at it from a circulating supply perspective, and I know that from your paper you told me that this whole thing is based on constantly adding more holders. If that's true, how is it possible that it still has a 10x of growth, right? So right off the bat, the numbers didn't make any sense, because your market cap doesn't lie. It doesn't lie. Your market cap right alone is a 10x market cap, because your supply and circulating supply is a 10x in gap, as There's 9x still that's allegedly not circulating, which means it hasn't even been done yet. Okay, but you're already getting close to $200 per coin based on what you did already, and yet you still have this gap, which means that this thing, if we're honest with ourselves, should be as high as like $2,000 per coin. Is it possible? Sure, but it's highly unlikely. It's on the Binance Smart Chain, number one. But number two, it's highly unlikely because it doesn't do anything. Like it's not actively being used. There's nothing that encourages an active transaction. There's nothing that encourages money movement. There's nothing that encourages this thing to have the volume that supports the market cap gap closing it. Do you see what I mean? Like, so if we're not transacting it, again, you buy in, you sit on it, and you recruit other people. What they built in this, because they did a lot of research on this dude, and what I just described to you in terms of money movement. What they did to try to cheat, in my opinion, is they built it to where you do airdrops. So what you'll do is, as your stake, you're gonna get some profit, right? Fed back up, but you're gonna airdrop some to other people. This then gives the illusion of actual volume and money movement, but it's not real. It's not real because there's no liquidity changing. If I move coins from wallet A to wallet B, nothing has changed in terms of circulation. None was added to circulation and none was subtracted to circulation. It simply moved wallets. The circulation is pretty intelligent logic. It knows when circulation is truly happening because of the liquidity actually being affected by the activity that's taking place. So if your liquidity never moved, that means that there was really no true activity. Thus, the circulation didn't change. And if your circulation is not changing, to me, from my perspective, your fully diluted market cap, which right now sits at about 12 billion, is crap. That's my opinion from what I see, because it doesn't support. If I look at the volume and I look at how it's been moving, price movement, there's no reason that I should see a fully diluted that large on the inventory numbers I'm seeing. It doesn't make any sense because your circulating is. If we were to believe what it says, and I'm looking at the numbers straight on CoinMarketCap, you look at yourself. If we're to believe that the circulating is only 100,000, which is only 10% of total supply, but yet you're fully diluted, which is every single token in supply is going to be worth this. And we're dealing with a model where in your own white paper, which they do have a white paper, in your own white paper, you straight up say, no, just airdrop to other people. And you know that the airdrop has no liquidity shift. And ultimately, all that's going to happen is people are going to sell for profit, which means it's going to decrease the liquidity over time. There's no way that this has a 10x growth potential because basically the pyramid, the house of cards, is going to fall because somebody in the middle who sells out has now affected upstream, and they've lost their downstream because there's no longer linkage. So this one strikes me as a highly, highly risky asset. I'm not telling you whether to buy or not. I'm saying that to me, it's a highly risky asset where its price movement doesn't make any sense to me. And there's some trickery and magic, and you talk about spell token. This is where the magic is. There's some trickery or magic or whatever that's causing price activity that's illogical because it doesn't correlate with the numbers. So when I see that the fundamental numbers don't tie and don't make any sense and nobody can explain it, I'm skeptical, and I would not advocate buying in, and I wouldn't buy in myself. That's why I said this is the one where I would not buy in because I can't fully explain how it would sustain under the MLM strategy that they're doing, because most MLMs don't sustain anywhere near like this. And we're talking situations where MLMs have been around for ages, but they usually come and go. Well, they come and go because the first one never supported. So it falls apart and then somebody else spins up another one. That's where the whole talk about Ponzi scheme came around. And if you look at various forms of social media, people are talking about it's a pyramid scheme, it's a Ponzi scheme, and all they're doing is they're cashing out on things and make a quick buck and they move on to another one. It's a pyramid, it's going to fall apart. And there's people, I think, see the same thing as what we see. Now, some people got smart. They bought in a little bit. They bought it like a tiny, like at $50 or something. And then they sold when it peaked at like 150. And so they made some profit and moved on. That's actually a smart strategy if they were able to do that. But you'd have to have been in early. You'd have to see it early and recognize that, hey, this is going to fall apart. And then you're okay taking profit out of it. Sure, no problem. But I think what's happening, I see also, is some investors are getting smart. They're just setting up separate wallets and they're investing into each wallet to create more of that pyramid. This one is so fluffy and so risky, and so it's like glass. It's like fragile glass. It's going to shatter at some point, in my opinion. And I don't think it's right. And I don't, this is like where regulation comes into place, stuff like this. Anyhow, Drip Network, drip.community, take a look at it. If you don't believe what I believe, please, by all means, do it. And again, don't YOLO into it. Please don't. And, if you make it work for you and you get some profit out of it, all the better.